going on, y'all? It's your boy Gibbons here.
And we'll see.
Welcome to yet another episode of the Achromous Podcast, episode 90. That is 90 straight weeks of giving you the best gems, the best goal setting strategies and tips, sitting with the best guests, telling us about their own lives, and just gems all over the place. And it just continues. I mean, 90 straight weeks of this is absolutely unbelievable. I can't even put that into words. We're 10 away from the century mark, a mark that, dare I say, I knew we were gonna hit because we weren't gonna stop. Right? A lot of people always like, "Oh man, I never saw it coming." No, we saw it coming because we were gonna keep doing this, and we told you from the very beginning that we were in this for the long haul. So, welcome to yet another Sunday of our Achromous podcast. If you're listening, I guess you can only be listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you're hearing a podcast. But if you're watching, that can mean only one thing. It means you're on YouTube. And so I'm going to need you to listen really closely here. There are three things that will help this channel grow. It'll help our community grow, and it'll continue to help you grow. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Next time you hop on YouTube and you're scrolling down your feed, episode 90 of the Achromous podcast will be sitting there waiting for you to digest. And most of all, we'll see.
It is free to do so.
Unbelievable.
It costs you anything but effort and time. That's it. But guess what? You're investing into yourself. So if you really are digging the gems that are being dropped your way, being able to apply and utilize these to help maximize your best potential in your development, in your journey, in your life, this is one way you can show the appreciation. Give us some love. Do those things that Jay mentioned, like turn on that notification bell, subscribe to our channel, again, because it's free to do so. And as you're learning, each one teach one, share it as well. We'll throw that in too. So we really need this so that we can get the traction, what we need to have to catch more people's eyes and make the topics that we discuss become something to really take hold to so that everyone can live a more fruitful, better life.
And that's the most important thing we'll see. It's living a fruitful and better life. That's why we came together to do this. We know that right now in our society, things are crashing, things are falling, people are losing hope. We understand it, man. We go through this every single week when we talk to our friends, our compadres, our amigos and amigas, and that's exactly what we're hearing. You know, people are just struggling in their personal lives and professional lives. So we want to come together and give you advice as well as take the advice that we're dishing out. And I think that's very important for us as hosts of this podcast and growers of this community, that we're all in this together. There's not someone that's above or below anybody else. We're all growing together and we're all in this together. We'll see. What a week it has been. Now, of course, you guys know yes, I know we record during the week, right? So that's what we do. And then, of course, every Sunday at 9:30, the next episode is launched. So by the time you're seeing this, you'll already know that one of the topics that we talked about last week on episode 89 with B. Monet, an incredibly talented director and producer and filmmaker and a dreamer and someone who's taking action as she always does. I always tease her about being somewhere in the world because she is a world traveler. And she's getting a lot done and she's killing it. She's doing all the right things. And you guys know how to reach her because you've seen the post come out. Feel free to follow her. Feel free to reach out to her. She is a great soul. She will help you as long as you show that you're willing to put in that effort. But on the episode, if you listen to, I think it was somewhere in the middle where we started talking about Tom Brady. We started talking about his obsession, his obsessive nature. We started talking about him leaving the NFL last year, and then saying he was retired only to come back a few months after. Not even a few months. I think it was only a few weeks.
A few weeks.
And yeah, when he came back, there were some people who were ecstatic. I'm sure the Tampa Bay fans were, the Tampa Bay coaching staff, they were all excited, even the NFL. Me as a fan, I was excited too. Look, the GOAT's coming back for yet another year. But people in his personal life, in his immediate life, his family, I don't think they were too pleased. And you would have seen by now that both Giselle and Tom have hired divorce attorneys. Now, I'm not speculating, nobody should, but that's never a good sign. So, first of all, I want to send my thoughts to their family, whatever they're going through in their personal life. It's because Tom and Giselle are very public people that we're going to see this. We're going to know a lot about the details of their marriage pretty soon. But if I was in their shoes, I would want the utmost privacy, even though I'm a public figure. There are just certain things that you don't want to discuss in public. Looking at it though, based on the discussion that we had last week, where we talked about the obsession and we talked about the chase and we talked about, is enough ever going to be enough for somebody who is obsessed with chasing something, regardless of how long they've been doing it, regardless of how much success. I mean, look, Tom could have retired maybe 8 to 9 years into his career when it started with the Patriots, and he would have still been a Hall of Famer. So anything he's doing on top of that is just adding. It's just adding more to the accolades that he's already been able to accomplish during his lengthy career. So then you gotta ask yourself, well, why is he still chasing it? What is he looking for? And I brought up the conversation: is he chasing something that he may never catch? And is his family going to be the ones to suffer in all of this because of his obsessive nature with the game of football? And it looks like things have taken a turn in their personal life. And I think for the very first time in his career, you're seeing the stresses of off the field issues affecting his game. You're seeing missed passes. You're seeing the frustrations earlier. I mean, Tom's always a frustrated guy when things aren't going right, but it seems to be a different level of frustration. There seems to be some early regrets that he's having for coming back. So I just wanted to take some time out at the beginning of this. We'll see to really jump on something that we talked about last week, and just to show you guys, anyone who's watching this, anyone who's listening in the Achromous community, we talk about real things. We do that every single week. We talk about real events and current events that are happening in life. And it just so happened that we were somewhat correct about the assumptions that we were going to make, that this may not end well. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be going that route for his family's sake. But we'll see. I mean, what is your take on all of this? I know something like this is pretty close to your own personal life, and us being able to talk about that in the past and seeing it happen on a more public stage with Tom and Giselle. I mean, it's, again, I'm not, no one's speculating here, but from seeing what's going on now, and based on what we were talking about last week when it came to being obsessed with what you're doing, sometimes some things will be sacrificed, and it seems like that is what's happened.
Yeah, that is true. And I mean, in life, I think just about every major decision we make, there's always two sides of the coin, right? So there's always something to gain, but there's something that you may sacrifice along the way in some fashion, right? And again, I think it just kind of goes back to uh, understanding who you are, maintaining your individuality while you're trying to coexist with others isn't always the easy thing to do. And then when you add an element of making a lifetime commitment to someone, establishing a foundation of that kind, uh, deciding to bring and give life into the world of offsprings, and to make a pledge to be all you can be for them, and put them first, put your marriage first, put your job first, put whatever it takes to be a provider, especially as a man. You put all these things first. You can tend to uh, lose yourself along the way, vice versa. But I can speak that as a man. You tend to lose yourself along the way um, when you become distracted, right? Or sometimes you can allow yourself to become so engraved into your body of work that you use it as an outlet to escape what may be happening is within your domain of your own home, your sanctity, the place where you're supposed to be at peace. Sometimes it's the place where you find the most war. I know beforehand, as someone who was married, that was kind of part of my journey of, I didn't have the peace that I needed in my marriage, in my home. I didn't have that peace, and I felt like I was at odds and at war. And then I have to go out these doors, and I have to fight that fight too. And we fight a lot of different aspects of it. And as you mentioned in Tom's case, it's on full display in his performance. Seeing that it's distracting him, and I mean, we're human. You're only human, so it's bound to show. And especially when you're a public figure and your life is kind of put on display, uh, it's harder because you're going through transitions real time, and there isn't always time to really take a moment for yourself to just think and reflect on things. You just kind of experience them as you go, and this seems to be one of those cases. And it's one of those things that is really hard to speak on unless you've been through, and gearing up for what appears to be what may be headed for them. It can be looked at as quite unfortunate, but maybe we'll see hindsight if it was the best thing to happen for them as well. Because in some cases, it's a necessity, so that you can live, you can breathe, so that you can exist outside of what um, image that you set for the world to see you uh, as a public figure, as a power couple, as a whatever that may look like. We get so fixated, especially in this era of modern society, that like those sort of things is what people crave and they look for. Self-image and perception of what you give to others is top gun. It's like what everybody wants to see, or they give you an image of what they want you to perceive them as rather than not accepting them as themselves. And we do this too often to ourselves. And in my opinion, this is the reason why there's should be a bigger factor on mental health awareness and the damage it does to you, because you take on too much more than you need to. And that you put too much of a facade on, that you just drain your essence. And by the end of the day, when you take off those masks and you take off all of that wear of what you have, figuratively speaking, you don't have nothing left, just a shell of yourself. And getting back to the subject and tying it together as to what I'm referencing to is, as you mentioned in this case, with referencing Tom as an example, uh, that you can look at one or two ways. Um, you can see it for what it is and continue to find the entertainment value in it, and some folks will. Or you could take this as a learning opportunity to kind of reflect on where you are in your life and apply it to yourself, because the reality of it is not so different than you who are someone who may be working a 9 to 5, someone who may be a small business owner, someone that's an entrepreneur of sorts, someone that is multitasking and are 6 people at once in your life, and breaking that up to be what everyone else needs. You got to make sure you make a little bit of that time for yourself.
Mm.
Because if you're not right up here in your mind, you can't give any of you out to anyone, because you're just not going to be what you need to be. And it's a delicate line to walk. It isn't easy. If life was meant to be that easy, then it really, the gift of life wouldn't really be worth having, because you'll never really be able to experience all aspects of it, the highs with the lows, because that's how you grow, truthfully. And to be able to share that with other people is based on experience. So, yeah, do wish them the best. I wish anyone the best that's out there that may be going through it right now, in that sort of field. I know some folks myself as well who's been through those sort of things, that may be going through it now. And it is transitional, it is life changing, but it isn't the end of you. So just want to make sure to make that clear, and to take the time to reflect, adjust, adapt, and let yourself to evolve and experience it. Like, go through it and feel the emotions of whatever it needs to be felt, because you can only be stronger through it if you allow yourself to be, if you choose to. And the example that you shared and we discussed last week going into this one, about Tom, I think that's a good testament to, it happens to the best of us.
Mm.
One day it looks like we have the whole world, and then the next day the veil is lifted, and you find out that glass house wasn't everything you thought it was on the outside. So worry about your own home, making sure that you have it together, and that you are feeling your way through life and enjoying it, and not just a spectator to appease others as well, or just enlighten, entertain others. I think that's, I would say, my biggest takeaway from that is just to be mindful in yourself. This is why self development is important. Self awareness, accountability too, because a lot of it is that too. And just be willing to accept change and then and grow with it.
That's powerful. We'll see. And I think even in that situation, as you mentioned, I think the silver lining for both of them could be that this is an opportunity for both of them to kind of take charge of their lives separately now, where Tom can focus on what makes him happy. Giselle can also focus on what makes her happy, and neither one of them feel like they have to sacrifice one of the happiest moments of their life in order to appease the other's wishes for them. And even something like that is just sometimes difficult to swallow, because sometimes you may think that the other person may bring you happiness, and it might be true, but other times there's an element of something that you're missing. It's that chase, it's the obsession for something that you've had for a very long time, and you're getting the opportunity to live that out, a lifelong dream, or the ability to walk down a runway in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and you being celebrated for your own accomplishments and things that bring you joy. Sometimes the sacrifice is on the other side. It's man, maybe I can't be with this life partner anymore if I'm being held back from the things that make me happy. Outside of the happiness that we may share, there are other avenues that I want to go through. Life is short, life is fleeting, it's unpredictable. So I think, I think you're absolutely right. I think for both of them, this will be another opportunity for them to grow separately. And I hope for the sake of their children, they're able to still be parents. Again, I mean, we're kind of jumping ahead of the entire thing, but um, my heart goes out for the children who will have to deal with this in a public space versus one that's in private. But yeah, no, I mean, I think leading into this episode now, where we were talking about how to actually take charge of your life, I mean, one of the ultimate ones would be sacrifice. I think you have to understand that regardless what you're doing in life or what you have planned for your life, there are certain things that will have to be sacrificed. Even on the fitness side of things, if you have a goal of getting healthy, if you have a goal of one day gracing the cover of a men's or women's fitness magazine or a swimsuit edition or something of that nature, you know that you're going to have to be on a special diet for an extended period of time. You know you're going to have to work out for an extended period of time. You know you're going to have to network with people. You're going to have to grow. You're going to have to do a lot of things that you may not be used to doing, and things that are outside of your comfort zone in order to get there. But ultimately, if you understand what your purpose is, that fuel that feeds you every time to get further along that path that you're trying to get through, everything becomes easier and everything becomes worth it because you understand where you're going. But once you lose focus because of the distractions that end up appearing in your life, you can get sidetracked. You could start blaming other people for your misfortunes. You could push yourself beyond the path that you were supposed to be on in order to get to that upper echelon, the apex, so to speak, of where you want to be. So it's important that you do take charge of the life that you're living. And I think for me personally, one of the things that I had to get over earlier on, even before we went the route of Apex Elevated or VidiChat, or now where we are with Achromous, it was the fear of being judged. Growing up, one of the main, I felt like my life was somewhat set up for me outside of me doing the setting up, going to college, getting this degree. That's it, right? Find a job. You work that job for the next 40, 50 years, you retire, you die. That I felt as though that is what someone else or other people set up for me. And at that time, I felt like I didn't have a choice. I felt like that was just the life I'm supposed to live. I'm here to be that beacon of hope from the outside, but inside I was hurting. Inside I was devastated because I knew that what I was doing and where I was going was not what I wanted to do, is not who I wanted to become. And as you continue to grow, you come to grips with knowing that that is the case and you understand that. And I think it's powerful that you then make the choice to change and you take action to change rather than understanding that change is needed, but you do not take the action. I think going that route is a slow death. I think you're already dead, but you're just walking because you've already given up. You've given up hope. You've given up the life that you want to have because of the doubts that you may have in your mind or the doubts that other people are putting in your mind. It's important to understand that everybody that you see out there that is the 1%, the top of the top, the one of ones, they have all followed their passion. So and I was listening to something today we'll see on the ride home, and it was coming it was so it was ironic that it was coming from people who were successful in life. You know, they're the one of ones in their own industry. And it seemed like they were preaching to those folks who were trying to find their way up to top, telling them that they should not follow their passion. They should just work hard, do whatever they're doing, and continue to do it. But your passion doesn't equal profit. But I would argue because there are others who are out there who are making a ton of money for themselves. They're living the lives they want to live and they're loving what they do. Granted, there are certain elements of what they have to do or had to do to get to that point that they didn't enjoy, but the purpose always was what it was. And they knew that they had to go that route and go that path in order to achieve the success that they have now. So whether you are an actor, you're a comedian, you're somebody who wants to be that, you don't have to listen to the critics. If there is a talent that you have and other people can see your talent and you hone in on that talent, meaning that you're if you want to be a comedian, you're going and doing clubs, you're taking advice from some of the best ones out there, you're building your resume, you're making connections, you're getting better with your craft based on the obsession that you have, you will undoubtedly be successful. But I think in this world now where we have social media and we have instant gratification, a lot of people think that as soon as you make that decision to be something, all of a sudden that's who you are. Right? I've seen it in the like if you go to Instagram, for example, you could see in some of the profiles that information at the top where they're talking about their bio. A lot of them are already saying they're entrepreneurs but never started a business. A
Oh
lot of
yeah.
them are saying they're models, but they've never walked down a catwalk. They've never taken a picture outside of a selfie. So it's like a lot of people are entrepreneurs now. A lot of people are envisioning what it might be like to be those things, but then not actually doing it. Right. And I think that's why a lot of people are stuck right now because they believe that because they typed it in their bio, they should be as successful as those who have been killing it for 10, 15, 20 years and doing that. So when I say take charge of your life, I don't necessarily mean just change your bio or read a book and then all of a sudden you're an expert in what you're doing. It takes so much time, we'll see. This is a perfect example. We are on episode 90 of this podcast. We don't get paid for this. We don't. We are taking time out of our schedules. Will C is a father of two. I'm working. I'm a husband. There's so many things that go on in our personal lives that we don't necessarily share doing these topics, but all of this is so difficult. But because in our minds we know that in 10 years this will all be worth it. We know that this is the long game that we're playing. We're continuing to grow, we're continuing to expand, we're continuing to make progress, and that's what gets us to the next level. Absolutely, we would want more, right? We would want more followers. We want more listeners. Absolutely, we do. But once we are absolutely ready to achieve what that is, what that looks like, then I can guarantee you we'll be ready to continue to grow. We will be in the place where we can now manage the expectations of all the followers that we've gained over time so that we're not completely overwhelmed by the influx of new followers or new requests or new demands or new technologies that we need to adapt to. We will already be ready because we're putting in the work now when there's hardly anybody else out there who knows that we exist. So that once you get to that point, once you keep grinding, once you keep building, not only will it all be worth it, but you will be absolutely prepared for what's next. And that's the mindset that you need to have. You got to start somewhere. Everybody does. You got to continue to make progress. Everybody does. But keep that perspective. Understand that it is a 1% at a time game, right? You're
Mm.
not going to get to 100% at the end of the month. There's no chance. And if you have that mentality, you're going to fail every time. You're going to disappoint yourself. You're going to want to quit. You're going to give up, and then you're going to jump to something else. And guess what? Once you do that, that clock starts over. That clock starts right over, and you got to start from scratch and redo everything again. But once you start on that foundation, you build up the framing, you start getting the finishes in, you get the roof on, you get all those things built around the house that you're trying to create. I can 100% guarantee you that you will see success. But ultimately, it is up to you to take charge of your life. It's up to you to understand where you are now and where you want to be, and exactly, when I say exactly, I mean in excruciating detail. List all the things that you have to do to get to that next step. List all of them, because I'm sure there's over 100. You may have a mini milestone that states, I want to have 200 followers by the end of December, right? And then mini milestone two is 3,000 followers by the end of the following August. Between those, there are hundreds of followers that you need to gain. How are you going to do that? What are your exact steps? How are you going to measure that? How are you going to be able to keep those followers interested? All those things you have to think about before you get to the next level, because once you do, that thing just starts multiplying and you keep growing so much faster because you have that foundation. People are able to see you, you're visible, people will understand who you are and what you're about, and you can continue to grow as you're going along. But it's important that today, whatever today is for you, whether it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're taking these gems that we're dishing out and you're putting them into practice. You're implementing them, and you have to do it on a consistent basis in order for you to see any type of progress at all. We'll see. So, at least from my end, that's how I believe that anybody out there in the Achromous community or any community that's joining us or watching this, that is how you take charge of your life.
Yeah, I think you nailed just about every talking point where it should be focused on if this is what you're looking to do and to reestablish, control of your life if you are at that point where you're kind of at a crossroads. If I had to add anything else to that, I would say to just kind of, I just want to emphasize a little bit more in the area of what makes you happy, uh, and how that can affect the direction you decide to go, how much effort you contribute into whatever it is that you're venturing into, from work to to business to relationships of any and all kind. All these things play a major role throughout communication, and I think the biggest thing to keep in mind along the way on this subject would be being very mindful that no one else can dictate your level or measure your happiness for you. You can have someone that can contribute and add on to that, can be a factor into your joy, but no one else can dictate that for you. No one else should be the sole reason, the sole purpose of your happiness, and in a way that is making you have to work overtime for their approval. Because I think that's a bigger factor on all platforms and all spectrums of we find that happening more often than not, Jay, where I think that's a big factor into some of what we see. Even going back to that topic of Tom Brady as an example, just of, you know, and I think also it's a delicate line. So I'll be very delicate about this. When you're married, I feel like there's a misconception to a degree as to that part of it. And yes, for better or for worse, this is your partner. This is who you commit yourself to for the rest of your days. But you still don't lose your individuality in what makes you happy, what you like to do. Your partner should be one who contributes to that because they care enough about you. Care about you. Notice I said care, because love is a fictional emotion that is extremely fickle, and its interpretation is open to however you perceive it. You can love someone and not be in love with them. There's so many different variations of it. In truth, you can have love for someone, But again, it depends on that. So I would say care in this case, because it takes effort to care for someone. It takes effort to give that time and support to someone who you want to see thrive. And that is the sort of things that you would hope to receive for someone. So as an individual myself, I don't need it, but I welcome it if it's received in a way that is no toxic tides to it, because that's what I'm going to give back to that person, but not to the extent that I feel like I have to overcompensate. And I think a lot of what we see out here on social media and just in general, we are all for the most part seem to be trying to overcompensate for things, rather than just take things as face value and just build off of what you have to work with. And like you said, taking it that 1% along the way, just being mindful, being intentional about what you're trying to do to accomplish those many milestones along the way to your ultimate goal. And in some cases, you may not even know what that is yet. And that's totally cool. That's fine. You don't have to have the answers to everything, but you remain practical in your approach, diligent in disciplining yourself so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish intermediately until you've established an identity as to what it relates and what you're trying to be the end game for you. And whatever it is you're doing, I'm speaking on this again. This all ties into that marriage conversation we're talking about, into business ventures, into entrepreneurships, and actually being an entrepreneur, an established one that's actually taking action and making effort into establishing yourself and identity. So it factors in all those areas. And if you aren't willing to do those things and you're looking for instant gratification, then here's the deal. You'll get a result, but it may not be what you're looking for. Right? It's no different than if you have folks who play the lottery excessively. You're looking for that one big hit to get you that meal, but like if you've taken the steps, let's just say in this aspect as an example, financially to save your money, to invest properly, to educate yourself rather than just saying that, but educate yourself on these things to establish you a base and foundation for yourself so that you can get to a point in your life with effort eventually, then you can get to that meal. It's going to take some work, it's going to take some time in your approach, but you're taking charge in your life to set a plan and to be proactive about it. Look, I talk to people on a regular basis outside of this, breaking that wall, in my personal day to day life about these sort of things. And intentionality is big for me. Intentionality is something that's so important because anyone can speak something into existence. You can try to manifest it, but if you're not applying yourself in the process, then it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all in the air, and you're gonna stay exactly where you've been, and just still wondering about what if. So you have to be intentional about your efforts and stay committed to it, because a lot of the times we have people again looking for instant gratification. If you don't get a certain amount of likes, if you don't get a certain amount of attention, if you don't get a certain amount of whatever overcompensating, then you're ready to just throw in the towel and be done. You're not adjusting in your process, you're not adapting to what your environment is and what's happening and the setbacks, and you're not having the mindset to elevate and evolve your game. And that's just really as simple as it gets. So take advantage of the opportunities that come your way to reevaluate and reassess where you are, and then plan. And the thing is, it takes time. But guess what? This is time you're investing into yourself. You got time to do other things that are like of not importance, truthfully. A lot of the times we make time for stuff that are very leisurely, activities and things like that. Why can't you make the time for yourself to do something that's investing into your future you? Right? That would be my biggest takeaway, is just intentionality to share that message, and not overcompensating yourself, or applying that effort for gratification of others, because you know inside when how good it feels when you've given your absolute best in something. And in my mind, that's never truly a loss if you haven't gotten to the threshold where you wanted to go, because you still moved along the way. So you're still having that opportunity, you can get there. but it's just going to take a little longer, a little bit more planning, a little bit more of a strategic approach to things. But you are where you choose to be. So apply the effort and you'll get to where you want to go.
100% we'll see. You said it best too. I mean, being intentional, and truly saying the words, saying the things that you're going to say, and actually doing those things that you talk about is, I mean, it's everything. Anybody who is successful will tell you that it's based on those habits and those goals that they not only set but achieved that got them where they were today. And it took years, it took time, it took grinding, right? It's, I mean, all the celebrities that we know now, the very first time we saw them or heard anything about them, they were already grinding for 10 years before that, 10
Mhm.
plus years, and we heard nothing about them, right? And where
Yeah.
they are now, where they are today, is exactly where they knew they were going to be because of the hours they were putting in. And the one thing that they did, we'll see, is they set the standard for themselves, right? The standard of the beautiful thing about life is that once you set a standard for yourself, that is the standard. You There is no, if I want to go to the gym, I can't say, oh, I'm tired, doesn't matter. God got home late, doesn't matter. The standard is here. I'm going to the gym, regardless if I am tired, regardless if it's 9:30 and the gym closes at 10:30. I'm going to the gym because that's the standard I set for myself. So if you hold yourself up to a high standard, you're only going to achieve that success because you will never go below it. So when you are looking to achieve your dreams, you have to understand that action is important, being intentional is important, taking incredibly massive action, continuing to follow those dreams that you have, continuing to achieve those goals that you set, continuing to get towards the purpose that you set for yourself, and understanding that that standard that you set for yourself is always going to be the standard. Do not go below that. Do not compromise that for anyone. That is the standard. The minute that goes away, you could fall for anything.
Mhm.
You'll drop anything because you have an excuse. Do not give yourself one. So we'll see. We want to thank you guys for joining us on another episode of the Achromous Podcast, episode 90. This is a very important episode for you guys to be able to really dive into what we're saying, and take heed to our words and put the words that we are saying into action. We do this every single week for you guys. We put this all together, and we cut it up into bite-sized pieces so it's a little bit more digestible for you, because we talk a lot about some really great gems and we want you to be a part of it. So at this time, we want you to give us your story. We want you to tell us exactly how you are taking charge of your life. The best response, the best answer that we get will be featured on the next episode of your Chromas podcast. And you will be able to get 30% off of anything in the Achromous Fitness store. I mean, that is a deal that you literally would not find anywhere else on any other podcast. An opportunity to have your voice heard, and an
Mhm.
opportunity to get discounts or get save money on the merchandise that we have that will allow you to live your best life. So we'll see. I think it's very important that we put that out there, and it's important for our community to really hone in on what we're saying, really
Yeah.
sit there and take all of this in, because it's not only important information, but it'll help you get to where you want to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can't put it any more clear than that. There's so many different examples to be provided, but the reality of it is what we are saying to you. If this touches home, then you know this is for you.
Mm,
I think the question you ask yourself is, what are you going to do about it?
mm, that's big. Look, here is something I want you guys to do, right? I mean, you've been listening. Maybe it was on Spotify, maybe it's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or maybe you've been watching. It's probably on YouTube that you've been watching. And for those of you who have not been here before, this is your very first time, we welcome you. We thank you for coming. We hope you come back again. We hope this episode has touched you in a way that you can go ahead and take action this week. That's literally the most important thing you can do. But for those who have been here before and still do not know how to spell our names out, or still do not know what we are about, I'll help you out again. I will spell it out for you. I'm feeling really generous today. We'll see.
Nice.
Achromous Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. If you're watching, it's YouTube. I need you to do these three things. I need you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. So the next time that you hop on YouTube and you're trying to search for a podcast that'll help you live the absolute best life that you possibly can today, giving you action items to do today so that tomorrow you are better than you were today. This is the home for you. And most of all, we'll see.
It's free to do so, but you already knew that. You had to already know that. But you know what isn't free to do, or what you shouldn't do, is waste your time on things that's not for you. But you stayed through this entire episode, so you know that this was something for you and a place to be. So we look forward to having you come back again. We look forward to seeing those likes up. We look forward to seeing the subscription this as well. And look out for that notification, because you know we'll be coming your way.
And we'll see. Look, it's been a crazy week, right? I'm sure you guys are stressed out wherever you are. We're all dealing with our issues, but thank God we have another week coming. We have another opportunity to do it again. We have another opportunity to set those goals and achieve them. We have yet another opportunity to take charge in our life. Do not take it for granted, because this will not last forever. But
Mm.
until next Sunday, it is your boy JH Gibbons.
And we'll see.
Peace.